A nuclear power plant on the moon? It sounds like a scene from a sci-fi movie, but it's a goal that a global superpower is steadily turning into reality. While much of the world is still debating how to return humans to the moon, China is quietly preparing to build a nuclear energy source on its surface, not for show, but to power a research station operating continuously, day and night, in the harshest conditions humanity has ever faced. That research station, named ILRS International Lunar Research Station, is slated for completion by 2035. Led by China with technical collaboration from Russia, ILRS is not just a leap in space exploration, but a declaration of independent technological prowess and long-term ambitions stretching far beyond Earth's low orbit. While the US bets on orbital models like the Gateway Station under the Artemis program, Beijing is silently preparing for a long-term technological landing where power supply cannot rely on the sun, but must come from a more dependable source, nuclear energy. Join Top 10 Discoveries Official. As we dissect this ambition to understand why China has chosen the moon as the testing ground for technological dominance and why the US has reason to feel uneasy. As superpowers shift their race from Earth's orbit to the moon's surface, one name is emerging as the new centerpiece of space conquest strategy: ILRS International Lunar Research Station. Nominally a collaborative project among multiple nations, it's not hard to see who's truly steering the ship. While the US invests in Artemis, China, who is laying the foundation for ILRS, a sustainable human habitable space ecosystem that crucially depends on no Western nation. Officially announced that in 2021 as a joint initiative with Russia, ILRS has a long-term vision extending to 2035. The project unfolds in 5 phases, starting with the robotic exploration missions like Chang'e 6 and Chang'e 7, leading to Chang'e 8 in 2028, the mission seen as the key unlock for the entire plan. This is followed by a major leap landing, astronauts on the moon before 2030 and completing ILRS infrastructure by 2035. The focal point is the moon's south pole, a region no human has ever set foot on. Yet it holds 2 strategic assets: water ice resources and stable sunlight at crater rims. This will be the site for the Command Center Laboratories communication systems, and most critically, a nuclear power plant, the energy heart of the entire ILRS complex. According to official sources, the plant's initial output is projected at 100 kilograms, sufficient to power life support systems, controls, and scientific research in a zero-gravity minus 173-degree environment for weeks on end. The project is designed to operate unmanned using autonomous robots for construction and operation, leveraging technology developed by China and Russia from their spacecraft programs. ILRS's ambition goes beyond a science outpost. In an expanded plan revealed in April 2025, China outlined the ILRS 555 model, inviting 50 nations, 500 research organizations, and 5,000 international scientists to participate in operations, data sharing, and co-developing a future lunar economy. In other words, ILRS isn't just a scientific endeavor, it's China's technological embassy on the closest celestial body to Earth. If Artemis represents an American-style space station, layered, controlled, and tied to NASA, ILRS is being built as an open model, but with China as the architect. A new power hub not on Earth, but shaped by Beijing's policies, technology, and development pace. When it comes to powering lunar bases, the first solution many think of is solar energy. The moon's surface lacks an atmosphere, so sunlight hits directly and intensely, seemingly ideal. But reality is harsher. At the South Pole, the chosen site for ILRS sunlight is inconsistent. More critically, each lunar night lasts 14 continuous days, with temperatures plunging to minus 173 degrees C. In that frigid darkness, no solar panel can sustain heat, equipment, communications, or, crucially, human life. That's why China is taking a different path: nuclear power. A nuclear power plant is currently the only solution for continuous, stable, and reliable energy on the moon. According to Pei Jiaoyu, chief engineer of the Chang'e 8 mission, who first detailed the plan in April 2025 in Shanghai, the nuclear plant will be the heart of ILRS, with an estimated output of about 100 kilowatts. This power level, seemingly modest, is enough to sustain a research station optimized for zero gravity and maximum energy efficiency. The nuclear system structure is unlike any power plant on Earth. It will be fully automated, requiring no human involvement to avoid radiation exposure and risks in the harsh lunar environment. The plan is to deliver an unmanned nuclear module to the moon before 2030, achieving stable operation between 2030 and 2035, coinciding with ILRS's official activation. This technology is being developed in close collaboration with Russia, a nation with decades of experience operating nuclear reactors for spacecraft and satellites. Of course, alternatives were considered: sprawling solar panel arrays, heat pipes from lit to shadowed areas, or high-capacity chemical batteries. But Chinese scientists concluded none could meet the demands of continuous operation in the South Pole's eternal darkness. At an April 2025 conference, chief designer Wu Weiren asserted, "Only nuclear power can deliver electricity day and night, regardless of external conditions," a strategic reason for China's prioritization of this technology. This ambition aligns with a global trend. NASA is developing its Fission Surface Power System, a small nuclear model for Artemis missions slated for testing in the early 2030s. But compared to China, the US is still in early conceptual stages with no confirmed deployment timeline. Meanwhile, China has moved from concept to engineering design, integrating it into the Chang'e 8 mission plan for 2028, with a prototype launch expected this decade. Choosing nuclear power isn't just a technical decision, it's a strategic statement. China isn't building ILRS to merely be present on the moon. They aim to maintain a presence day and night, summer and winter, decade after decade. And to do that, they can't rely on the sun. They must own the moon with their own energy source. Unlike NASA's or SpaceX's flashy press conferences, what's unfolding with ILRS is leaving Western space experts breathless. This isn't a conceptual sketch, but a genuine mega project with a budgeted scale, technical weight, and geopolitical ambition rivaling any lunar program in history. Independent analysts modeling the SCOPE module count energy structure and infrastructure akin to NASA's Gateway estimate, ILRS's total investment at $20-30 billion USD. This is no small sum, especially given the high automation and space transport costs today. The nuclear power plant alone, the heart of ILRS's ecosystem, is estimated to account for 10 to 15% of the budget, or $204 billion USD. Remarkably, the plant's target output is 100 kilobars, nearly 10 times the capacity of current small solar-powered stations like Viper or Lunar Outpost. This suggests China isn't just powering sensors and comms, but building a small-scale lunar power grid capable of simultaneously running life support modules, mining robots, data transmission, and even melting regolith for 3D printed infrastructure. The real strength lies not in power output, but in technological density. Per technical reports from CGTN and SCMP, the entire reactor control, shielding, and transmission system is packed into a unit under 2,000 kilonewtons. With this weight limit, only super heavy rockets like China's Long March 9, set for its first test launch in 2028, can handle the lunar delivery. In other words, China isn't just designing the project, but has planned the transport and timeline for feasibility. The final, perhaps most ambitious aspect, the plant is designed to operate continuously for 10 to 15 years without refueling. This is a quantum leap compared to older space nuclear reactors, which lasted a few years and often faced safety issues at mission end. If successful, ILRS will have the most sustainable energy system ever designed for beyond Earth, a foundation for large-scale 21st century space exploration. These figures, once confined to research white papers, are now becoming real data. While most space programs are still fundraising or building mock-ups, Beijing is ordering real rockets, real reactors, and real robotic systems, quietly but unnervingly. Understated but impossible for Western space control centers to ignore. Beneath ILRS's scientific cooperation lies an increasingly clear geopolitical alliance: China and Russia. While the US sticks to allies-only collaboration, Beijing has chosen Moscow, a partner both sidelined by the West and eager for a new global stage to assert itself. From a technical perspective, this is a calculated handshake. Russia was the first nation to deploy nuclear reactors in space with its Cosmos satellite program in the 1970s. To date, Russia has launched over 30 space nuclear power systems, a scale even NASA hasn't matched. When it comes to space nuclear tech, it's not the US but Russia That's the silent, big boss effect China keenly noted for ILRS's development. But the primary reason isn't just technical. Since the 22 Ukraine conflict, Russia has been cut off from most high-tech collaborations with the West. The ISS is no longer a shared home, and Russian aerospace firms have lost access to Western components. In this context, China is the only open gateway, not just economically, but for space ambitions. And Beijing, as always, doesn't miss a strategic opportunity. For China, Russia is a partner, strong enough, yet needy enough, not threatening Beijing's leadership, but experienced enough to accelerate ILRS. More crucially, partnering with Russia sends a bold geopolitical signal. China can build a separate space order detached from the US NASA ESA JAXA axis. This is also a preemptive move against the US, using space as a geopolitical control tool, as it has with GPS, the internet, or telecom commerce. An independent lunar base powered by proprietary nuclear tech and co-funded by two powers wary of the West isn't just a research station, it's a new symbol of space power. In short, China didn't choose Russia for lack of options. They chose Russia because only Russia fits a game no longer purely scientific. If successful, this partnership will not only reshape the map of extraterrestrial energy, but also the balance of power in lunar orbit. In a weightless world, energy isn't just what sustains life. It's the foundation for every strategic ecosystem, from research stations and autonomous AI to resource mining and off-Earth defense activities. On the moon, where nights last 14 days and temperatures drop to 173 degrees C, energy is life itself. That's why China's push to develop a nuclear power plant for ILRS is more than a technical milestone. It's a strategic declaration that they aim to control the main power socket for the off-Earth world. Once the leader in the 20th century space race, the US now faces its own paradox. Artemis III, the mission to return humans to the moon for the first time since Apollo 17, was officially delayed to 2026 per NASA's announcement earlier this year. Not only behind schedule, Artemis relies heavily on international partners, particularly Europe and Japan, for module design and logistics support. Meanwhile, China is quietly building a self-sufficient ecosystem, complete and independent. They don't buy rocket engines, lease comm stations, or rely on alliances. Instead, China is methodically seizing the most strategic high ground on the lunar surface, the South Pole, home to water ice for life and fuel, and the only region with near-continuous sunlight for months. Control energy here, and China controls access to infrastructure, robotic coordination, communication systems, and missions to mine helium-3, a potential fuel for future fusion reactions. The space race is no longer about planting flags. It's about who can build lunar infrastructure and control the next value chain. Beyond technology, China is forging a new political alliance. As of May 2014, China has signed over 10 bilateral space cooperation agreements with nations in Asia: Pakistan, Thailand, UAE, Africa, South Africa, Egypt, and Latin America, Brazil, Venezuela. These deals directly challenge the Artemis Accords, a US-led 2000 treaty to establish a new legal order on the moon. While the world debates legalities, China builds infrastructure, and the nuclear power plant is the key to unlocking that strategy. On the moon, there's no national power grid, no oil plants, no gas stations. There, whoever generates energy writes the rules. While China has publicly outlined plans for an unmanned 100-kilowatt nuclear power plant at the lunar South Pole by 2035, the US, the nation that sparked the space race, is struggling with prototypes. Since 2018, NASA has been developing Kilopower, a small nuclear reactor SMR, aiming to deliver 10 kilowatt-hours for lunar stations. But as of May 2025, the project remains in ground-based tech testing, far from field integration. The US Department of Defense, via DARPA's Draco program, is also limited to nuclear propulsion models, not surface applications like China's. The gap isn't technology, it's strategic will. If the US wants to maintain leadership, or at least avoid renting power from Beijing for future lunar missions, Washington needs an urgent action plan with 3 clear pillars. First, boost funding for space SMR programs from both NASA and DARPA. In 2024, SMR research accounted for just 0.1% of NASA's budget, while China allocates billions to combined military-civilian research. To compete, the U.S. needs at least a five-fold funding increase paired with a special policy framework to fast-track licensing, testing, and deployment. Second, support the domestic SMR industry. Developing civilian military SMRs must be prioritized in national energy legislation, serving not only space, but also logistics in remote regions, battlefields, and mobile infrastructure. Third, forge a space nuclear tech alliance. The U.S. can't race China's all-in-one tech nation model alone. Washington must rally the EU, Japan, South Korea, and India to co-develop next-generation lunar reactors, sharing costs, risks, and energy access, much like NATO's strategic tech-sharing model. Without these, when the U.S. lands at the South Pole by decade's end, they may need a power supply contract from China. That's not just a technical issue, it's a symbolic humiliation for a space superpower falling behind. Not every race starts at the same line, but history always remembers who crosses the finish first. While the world debates the ethics of space exploitation, China has laid out a plan to power a long-term base at the lunar South Pole. No warnings, no fanfare. Just a 100 kilovolt nuclear power plant, enough to fuel robots, AI resource extraction, and establish a globally branded research station written in China's technological language. If China becomes the first to generate stable power on the moon, the rest of humanity, including the US, may face the unthinkable, paying for energy to conduct their own missions. This isn't just about nuclear power or space. It's the first step toward controlling a future where energy, data, and infrastructure no longer reside on Earth. So what about you? Do you believe the US can still turn the tide? Or will the moon's energy future bear the label, Made in China? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Discoveries Official to explore more geopolitical tech projects quietly shaping the 21st century.